Hi, everyone. Welcome to our class, our virtual class on resumes. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about what makes a good resume and focusing on technical resumes. So you might have seen examples online of a resume. If you've Googled resume tips and tricks, or if you've gone to the Career Center, they have a little packet, which is great. Those are often more focused on business school type jobs, things that you might be applying for if you had a B school degree. And each field has its own quirks. And so in engineering, it has its own quirks. And a technical resume, a resume focused on an engineering position, is going to be a little different than what you would do if you were applying for something straight out of business school. Or if you were applying for something straight out of arts and sciences in some different fields. So even within the engineering fields, there are some differences. And you will be able to learn a little bit about those differences as you talk to people in different, areas of your field. Maybe talk to professors, talk to former students who have applied. You might talk to hiring managers as you move along and kind of see what they prefer in their individual fields. So we're just going to be talking about some best practices for resumes for engineering positions. If you're applying for other stuff, learn from those people. Get in touch with people on LinkedIn and just try and learn about some different things that you can do, and different things that they're looking for. So in our office over here, in our office suite, the Engineering Communication Center. So Engineering Communication Center, it's in Erbauer 104. We have on a bookshelf. The bookshelf's like over here. I'm out in the main area right now because our offices are being renovated, but there's the bookshelf in the corner over there. On that bookshelf, we have a few binders. This one is the undergraduate resumes binder. And it is full of examples of undergraduate resumes. So here's one. And so these are successful resumes. They're really good resumes, and it's just neat to see what people have done before you. So I encourage you to take a look at them. I know that you may not be in St. Louis right now, and hopefully at some point you'll be back. And so even during the regular semester, or anytime when you're in town, you can feel free to come in here, Erbauer 104. As long as one of us is here, the main door is unlocked. And so you can come in and sit down on one of our comfortable chairs that we're going to be getting in here soon, and take a look and actually make photocopies of some of them. I'm going to upload a few of these to Canvas so that you have a chance to look at some examples, and actually we'll have a chance to talk about it a little bit. But yeah, it's just kind of a mixed bag of a bunch of resumes from the last 20 years or something. Some of them are super old, so you'll be able to get a laugh out of the technologies that they were learning at that time. So a few of the main things that make a technical resume a little different from kind of a general business school resume. The main thing, I think, is level of detail. Hiring managers in technical positions actually want to know that you can do the work and that you can do good technical work. So they're interested in the details of what you've done. They're interested not just in, I created this video game, but I created this video game using these programming languages and these platforms. I created a video game using these technologies and deployed it on iOS and Android. So if you are a mechanical engineer, and let's say you're on the WashU race car team and you are responsible for, I don't know what you guys do on the race car team. It's very cool, whatever it is. So let's say you're responsible for making a part. You might have used software to 3D print the part. The material itself might be fiberglass, and so you're talking about the materials and the software, any programming that you've done. If you're using machine shop tools, you might be talking about those as well. So there's a lot of detail that you can go into. That said, how there's this tenet out there that all resumes should be only 1 page long or maximum 1 page long. That is true for a lot of fields. For engineering, it's not necessarily. It can be, but it's not necessarily. I think for most of you as undergraduates, you will have a 1 page or less resume. But if you have a lot of experience, or if you're a graduate student, even as an undergrad, if you're a senior, let's say you've had internships every summer, the activities that you do are engineering relevant, or you have leadership positions in them and you want to describe them, suddenly you have all this information and you're trying to decide what to cut out, but everything is relevant and everything is important. That's the time where you go ahead and own the decision to go to 2 pages. You just say, I'm going to own the decision to go to 2 pages. The second page doesn't have to be totally full. It can be a third full or something like that. But if you're able to keep it to 1 page, that's good. That is ideal as an undergrad, because usually we don't all have that much experience. But there are people who do. And so, it just kind of depends on where you are in your career. Typically, it starts with, and I'll show you an example of this on one of these things from the binder here. I'll pick one that looks nice. They all look nice, but let's do this one here. It's shiny because it's in a sleeve, so you may not be able to see it really well, but this is Will Fisher. He probably graduated about 2010. Let's see. Yeah, 2010. It starts with a summary. So the summary is a little bit about you. And sometimes with examples you see online, you'll see I'm going to drop down here. This is not the most comfortable seating arrangement. Okay. Sometimes what you'll see online with examples is objective. And an objective just says, like, here's what I'm looking for. And here's what I'm looking for. That's a little bit descriptive, but if here's what I'm looking for is the job you're looking for and the job you're applying for, then they might say, like, oh, of course you're looking for that kind of job. Of course that's what you're interested in. So a summary gives you the opportunity to say, here's who I am and here's what I'm looking for. Here's some key skills I have. So this is such an old resume that he was a civil engineer. We don't even have civil engineering at WashU anymore, but let's take a look at it. So the summary says, senior civil engineering student seeks full-time position to create and implement sustainable designs, willing to travel worldwide, proven exceptional organizational capacity both for planning and facilitating group cooperation and coordination, effective leader, committed worker, and experienced communicator, familiar with the Spanish language. That might be like a little bit more than I would do. There's a lot of cooperation, coordination, effective leader, committed worker, experienced communicator. He may have picked a couple of key skills there as opposed to all of that, but it's not the longest thing in the world. It's just like a little mini paragraph sort of thing. He does say that he's familiar with Spanish and that he's interested in sustainable design. And those things would be relevant for the types of jobs he was looking for. So you can actually tweak that and change it for each job you apply for. So that job that says, we want you to be proficient in Java, and that's a preferred skill. Let's say you're proficient in Java, and that's something that they're really looking for. In your summary, you could say, proficient in Java. Then the next job doesn't care if you know Java or not. Take that out, put something else in there. So the summary usually goes first. It's a little. And then you're going to do education. And education is right now your full-time job. As an undergraduate, education is your current job. So you have other jobs as well, and you may be doing them many, many hours a week. But your employers are going to be most interested first in where are you in school, at what sort of moment in time are you in school, and what are you studying, and what's your focus? When are you graduating? That kind of basic details. And then the work experience becomes really relevant. Some examples you see online start with work experience and education is at the end. That totally makes sense once you've been out of school for a while and you're in the workforce. So I'll give you an example. My husband is a computer scientist. He's an IT director for a software firm, and his resume is 2 pages long. He thought more than 2 would be overkill, but it's a solid 2 pages long. Education's at the end. It's the last thing because he's my age. He's 39, and so he has this array of work experience. That's going to be the most interesting stuff to somebody who wants to hire him. What have you done since 2002? Not what were you up to in the late 90s. But they will still want to see that he went to WashU School of Engineering and got a computer science degree. So So, and I'm giving you that example rather than my example because he's in an actual engineering technical job. You know, I actually put my education first on my resume because when you're looking for an academic job, they're going to care most about first what are your degrees in and what level degree are they. And so I've got my 2 master's degrees and then my undergraduate, and my focus is in those. So, and again, with the examples, you'll see what goes where. One of the FAQs that I get, one of the frequently asked questions is, when do I put my GPA on my resume? How good does it have to be, or how you know, if the job description says 2.5 GPA or above and you have a 2.9, you can go ahead and put the 2.9 on there. But, you know, if you're not really sure what they're looking for, usually 3.0 is a good gauge. And below that, if you have below that, just don't put it on your resume. When they ask you, if they ask you, then you tell them, oh, I have a 2.7. But by then, they might really like you. They might have interviewed you and say, you know, we were looking for a 3.0, but this person has all this other stuff. Let's go with them. So yeah, I would put my GPA on there, 3.0 or above. You tell them what you're studying, what you're majoring in, what you're minoring in. One key difference between an engineering resume and some of the examples you generally see online is, and you'll see examples of this as well, there's often technical coursework or advanced coursework on there. And so you list some classes that you've taken. And technical writing should be among them. I'm not just saying that because I think technical writing is important, because of course I think it's important. But I am also saying that because a lot of schools do not require technical writing, and a lot of employers are really happy to have somebody that has a little bit of experience writing or communicating that can set you apart. But this is a chance to tell them all of the hardcore coursework you've taken, all of the 300 level or above stuff. If you're a rising junior, so you've only taken coursework as a freshman and sophomore so far, you could maybe list 200 level classes. You might not need to list like intro to mechanical engineering if you've taken like more advanced classes than that, or, you know, something like that. But any topical classes or thermodynamics or whatever kind of cool and interesting stuff you guys take, you can go ahead and list that. And you just can comma separate it. You don't need to do any really crazy formatting. What's really cool about listing your coursework is, let's say it's a big company and the hiring manager is looking for somebody with some experience or knowledge of thermodynamics. Maybe they tell their HR department, hang on a second. Hi. Okay, I'm back. Hi. So I was telling you about the coursework. So let's say there is this idea that they would like somebody who has some knowledge of thermodynamics or something like that. They might tell their HR department, do a keyword search on all the resumes that come in. If you see thermo or heat, if the computer sees thermo or heat on the resumes, then they can pass through to where human eyes see them. But if not, you can trash them. And so let's say you don't have any work experience in thermodynamics, but you've taken the class. I don't know what it's called here. It might be thermodynamics or heat transfer, something like that. If you've listed it, then you have it. It's on there. And it passes that keyword search, and you end up where a person can look at your resume, as opposed to having it trashed before anybody even sees it. So that's one reason to list coursework. It shows the range of things that you've done that you just haven't done work for yet. So after education, you would include, okay, so here's an example here. You would include your work experience. You can split that up in different ways. And I'm gonna show you a few examples or upload a few examples that show different ways of splitting it up. So it might be like engineering experience and other related experience, or you might do something like academic projects or independent projects. That could be a section. So with work experience or experience, they don't really care whether you got paid or not for it. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's for a company or not. It's just what was the work. So let's say you're on the race car team here at WashU and you build a race car. That's engineering experience, even though it's not for a company. Or if you TA for an engineering class, that's engineering experience. Or if you tutor for engineering classes, that would be considered engineering related experience. So if you have a lot of work experience and it's kind of random stuff, some of it is waiting tables and some of it is engineering related, you can split it up into two work experience sections. One is engineering related experience, the other one's other related experience. They do care that you've done other stuff. So if you do wait tables over the summer and you do it full time, that is respectable, that is important work. Nobody's going to look down on you if they see that. In fact, they're going to see somebody who's hardworking, who can hold down a job, who can work well with people. You don't have to go into great detail about what you do waiting tables. It's a pretty standard job. But let's say you have no other experience, that's the only experience you have, then go into detail with it, right? Tell them that as a waiter or waitress, that you do all these different things, that you interact with customers, that you help out maybe whenever they need help in the kitchen, whatever it is. You can go into all that detail if you need to fill that space. But as soon as you gain some engineering experience, then that stuff can get condensed, restaurant name, the city and state it's in, server. That's it. Maybe one bullet point of what you've done. So you've got your work experience. Another thing that you can do is an activities section or activities and leadership. That's the stuff you do here at WashU, or maybe hobbies or club sports or things like that. And then you'll need a skills section. So on a resume, it's like usually computer skills or technical skills. And those of you who are computer scientists will need to go into more detail with it. It wouldn't just be computer skills. Here's a list of things. You might split them up into software, hardware, and OSs or something like that, or platforms if you're like, qualified in developing stuff for Android and iOS, or whatever platforms you work in. So that would be different ways of splitting it up. But you can put other stuff in the skills section too. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you have machine shop skills, that could be a line. Or if you are a chemical engineer and there's particular instrumentation you can do, or lab skills or something like that, that could be a line, and you comma separate those. So all of that is fair game for the skills section. And those of you who are computer scientists, you can consider putting your skills section up after education and before your work experience. The rest of the fields is pretty traditional to have it kind of near the end. So really, it's sort of up to you where you put that section. It's fairly skinny. It's not the biggest thing ever. Let me find one. This is a super old resume, but here's computer skills. And it's just a few things. He's got platforms, programming, and applications. And if you see this example, you'll see how old this thing is, because it includes Windows XP and Windows 2000, COBOL. So even if you know old technologies, it's actually worth putting them on there. A lot of places have stuff that's left over in old technologies, and they're just really happy to have somebody who's familiar with them. So anything you're familiar with, even if you're not super, super proficient in it, you can list it in the skills section. You can put other stuff in your resume as well. And you'll see some examples of it. Honors and awards, sometimes is its own section, sometimes it's under education because they're academic honors and awards. People sort of wonder also, do I put stuff from when I was in high school? Any work experience that you have is relevant. So if you worked in a lab a summer when you were in high school, or if you did an engineering project or something like that, or even if you had a job that was a full-time or half-time job or something like that, you can go ahead and list that with the years or with the months and years, and that would be reasonable. You don't have to go into detail about all your high school academic honors and your GPA and all that stuff. Nobody really cares. That's what got you into WashU. Now you're a college student, they want to see how you're doing in college. But if you're applying for a job in your hometown, or if you're applying for a job and your high school has a really strong alumni network or a really strong name, you can list the high school, the city, and the state, and when you graduated. If you're valedictorian or salutatorian, you should list that as well. That's an impressive honor at any age. But the other stuff, national merit semifinalist, ACT score, all that stuff, they don't really care about unless they specifically say, like, there's a couple companies that say they want to see your SAT score, which is super weird. But if that's the case, then you put it on for them. But that's it. So let me see what else. That's the main stuff that you're going to see in here. Again, I'm going to upload some examples for you so that you can get a feel for it. Formatting wise, there's also in these examples a pretty good diversity of different formatting. You want it to look professional and clean, but it can have a little personality to it. You do your name and your contact info at the top, and then you go into detail with these different sections. You want it to be easy to navigate. So the section titles should be really easy to find. So if somebody's looking for skills, they shouldn't have to take time and look and squint and try and figure out where it is. You want big, bold-faced things that people can see. And again, I think the best way to do that or think about that is look at examples and see what you like the look of. As far as fonts go, I would use something that's fairly standard, that's available on lots of different computers. But you can have a little fun with it. Like, it doesn't have to be a default font. It certainly can, but it doesn't have to be. So pick something you like the look of. You don't want it to be too like curly or weird. You don't want it to be hard to read at a distance, but something clean and professional looking would be great. As far as margins go, 1 inch all around is fairly standard. If you're trying to fit things into one page, you might drop it below that, sometimes 3/4 of an inch all around. There might be top and bottom, you might go 0.6 or 0.5 or something like that if you need to, but any smaller than 0.5 and things start getting cut off and looking really odd. So there's other ways to sort of mess with your formatting. And then as far as font size goes, 10 to 12 is the general rule. Smaller than 10 makes it very hard to read. Bigger than 12 and it looks like you're trying too hard to fill space. There's other ways to fill space. So I'm going to take a look at some of your some of your resumes. We're going to look at rough drafts together. So that'll be a really good opportunity for me to give you feedback one-on-one on how your thing is looking. And given how many of these I've seen over the years, I have lots of tricks and feedback for just figuring out, let's say you've got a page and a third and you're like, I want to get this on one page, but I don't want it to look too crowded. I can help you with that. And I'm happy to. So yeah, that's a little bit about the formatting. If you take this to the career fair or something like that, if you're doing a paper resume and you're giving it to someone, you should print it on resume paper. It's a thing, resume paper. And the Career Center has resume paper and they allow you to print on it, so you don't have to buy resume paper. But if you're home for the summer and you're bringing a resume to someone, you should buy some resume paper. You can get it at like Office Depot or, Amazon, I'm sure. And yeah, it's like thicker and more cloth-like than regular paper. So you can't just print it on printer paper. And the same is true with cover letters if you're giving somebody a print copy. Most of the time you're uploading it to some sort of system or emailing it. Do it as a PDF so that your formatting gets locked in, so that it doesn't get all jacked up when, different versions of Word or Google Docs or whatever. They don't do a great job of standardizing things. So if you do it as a PDF, it ends up looking like you want it to look. So that's the main stuff about resume and cover letter. You are going to have questions for sure. And that is great. We will discuss that. We'll discuss it quite a lot. So this is a great opportunity as you're watching this and as you're thinking about it, write down a bunch of questions so that you can share them with the class. And we'll go then into more detail and follow-up detail on what to do about those things. There might be specific questions looking at examples like, oh, I don't really know what to do. This person does this way. What do you think about that? It could be more general, like that GPA question. When do I list my GPA? When do I not list my GPA? So it could be very specific to your own situation, but really think of questions, write stuff down, consider, what, even as this video is going on, what things are you confused about? And I can address all of them. So I'm really happy to talk to you more about resumes, but this gives you a basic grounding in it. Take a look at all of the examples I'm posting to Canvas, and that'll give you kind of a diverse idea of what these could look like. This should go without saying, but these are people's resumes. Don't share them, don't send them to people or post them on the internet. Canvas is locked down to our class, and so you can take a look at them, but don't disseminate them. These are, actual people, and their addresses and phone numbers are on here. And these are students who gave us permission to share their resumes. These are all good examples, but they're not necessarily perfect. So you might look at it and be like, I don't love the formatting of this. Here's one that I like in theory, but I think those black lines are a little bit heavy. I wouldn't do it. I probably would have gone gray. So you'll have your own ideas about what you like the look of. And that's one of the cool things, is that there's a lot of creativity involved in laying these things out. If you have questions about formatting stuff in Word too, if you're like, I'm getting really annoyed with trying to figure out how to write justify stuff, or how do I center something well, I've been playing around with Word for a long time. I can help you with that as well. So that's a bit about resumes. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I'm going to put together a video as well about cover letters, so you'll be able to take a look at both of them in conjunction with each other and get a feel for how these two things work together. Thanks, and have a good day.